Hey guys, KiraKennedy here with my December 4th entry for Vlogmas, which is a series where I will be posting a video blog for every single day in December. Originally, I had said it was going to be from December 1st to the 25th, but then I figured out I might as well do the last 6 days of the month as well, the 26th to the 31st. So, originally I was just going to do a walking vlog talking about what I was going to do later today on my way home from work. Then I remembered that tonight there was an iPPV on for the former What Culture Pro Wrestling, now being branded as Defiant Wrestling. The show in question, We Are Defiant. Now, I will give my thoughts on that, though, to be honest, I didn't watch a whole lot of WCPW. Like, I knew a couple of names, I knew a couple basic storylines here and there. And I don't follow a whole lot of British wrestling, so there's a lot of guys who I'm not going to know a whole lot about. You know, I don't follow much outside of ICW or, again, What Culture Pro Wrestling. I know a few things, but not much. So let's kick things off with the pre-show itself. You had Defiant Wrestling General Manager Stu Bennett, the former Wade Barrett, better known as Bad News Barrett, coming out to not only reveal the Defiant Wrestling Heavyweight Championship, but also announce his newest free agent. So first of all, he showed off the new Defiant Wrestling Championship belt and gave it to current champion Marty Scurll. And I like the belt design. You know, it's very reminiscent. It's kind of reminiscent of the old big gold belt from NWA and WCW. Not a big fan of the huge logo for the Defiant logo, like right in the middle of it, but I've seen worse belt designs, to be honest. Basically, there was a bit of a long build up there where there were a lot of snake jokes made here, and it wasn't all that funny. But shortly after giving the title to Scurll, you had the surprise debut of the hottest free agent in pro wrestling today, apparently. Well, I won't say apparently. Bennett touted as the hottest free agent in pro wrestling. The greatest man who ever lived, Austin Aries. That was a cool moment seeing him debut. He subtly, not so subtly, name-dropped IPW. It's a promotion in Britain that I know absolutely nothing about. In fact, the only reason I know the names of the guys who would show up later is because I know the fact when I was tweeting this. I'll talk about it when I come to it. Sorry. Basically, Aries demanded a shot at Scurll's title, but Scurll turned him down, saying he goes to the back of the line. After that, we had the only match on the pre-show, which was a number one contenders tag team match with the South Coast Connection, the team of Ashley Dunn and Kelly Six, taking on the team of BT Gunn and Joe Coffey. I wanted to tweet a joke about how these two were beating the hell out of each other last week at the SCC Hydro in Scotland for ICW, but for whatever reason, this was kind of that show where I didn't want to really be a smark. You know, normally when I'm there, I have my moments while I'm tweeting about WWE where I tend to get a little smarky, and I'm not proud of it, and I kind of wanted to not be that guy during this show. So, this match was okay. There was a lot of Coffey and BT Gunn playing up to the crowd, which was very weird considering the fact that they used to be part of this huge mega heel group in WCPW called the Prestige. So part of me was thinking that it was a bait and switch and that they would kind of blindside the guys after they won, which they did. But that didn't happen. And in the end, Coffey and Gunn got the win after pinning, I think it was Dunn, to be named number one contenders for the Defiant Tag Team Championships. After that, we got to the main card, kicking things off with David Starr taking on fellow Canadian Speedball Mike Bailey in the second match in a best-of-3 series to determine who would face off against Defiant Internet Champion Zack Sabre Jr., who many of you may remember from WWE's Cruiserweight Classic, or by the fact that he is also the current Rev Pro British Heavyweight Champion and the current Evolve Champion, as well as the current WCPW, or Defiant in this case, Internet Champion. He also used to be the PWG Heavyweight Champion, but he recently dropped that to Ricochet. Anyways, this match was probably hands down, without even going into without talking about the rest of the card, the match of the night. Once Defiant uploads this to their YouTube page, I'll post a link to it in the description below, because you guys definitely need to check that out. It is one hell of a match. I mean, there's some moments where wrestling purists will question it, particularly the finish, but this was a really cool match. A lot of it kind of focused on Bayley's kicks. Like, there was a huge chunk of the beginning that kind of took place on the outside with Bayley and Starr kind of having a slugfest out there. But again, lots of back and forth in this match. The finish kind of started around. There was one point towards the end where you had Bayley try to go for a moonsault knee drop onto Starr, who was kind of draped over the apron, which, as we all know, is the hardest part of the ring. But Starr kind of rolled out of the way, and Bayley landed knee first onto the apron. So the next little bit leading into the finish had Starr working on the injured knee. And then the finish kind of threw all that away. You had Starr nail an overhead belly-to-belly suplex off the top rope onto Bayley, who then immediately got back up, nailed a roundhouse kick onto Starr, and then hit a shooting star knee drop. It was either a knee drop or a knee strike. I can't remember, to be honest. And he would pick up the win and be named #1 contender for Zack Sabre Jr.'s Defiant Internet Championship. Though the post-match segment had Starr throw a temper tantrum and then immediately flip off the crowd, which makes me think he might try to extend this into a best of five series. So I'm interested to see where this one goes. After that, you had a segment with the recently debuted Pastor William Ever, whose gimmick is basically that he's an evil priest. Think the sinister minister James Mitchell, only he looks more like Jesus. Basically, the whole segment was him trying to convert another wrestler by the name of Liam Slater to become his disciple, I guess. Again, this is kind of where my lack of following for WCPW kind of kicks in, because I don't know a whole lot of the stories coming in. But apparently, Ever was saying that Slater has lost his way, I think, basically ever since his former tag team partner, Johnny Moss, left to become a trainer at the WWE Performance Center. And then Moose, a current TNA wrestler who also wrestles for Defiant or WCPW on occasion, he came out to challenge Ever, and I think basically the idea was Slater was going to be the ref, and they were going to determine whether or not Slater would join Ever. To replace this, you had Prince Amin and Gabriel Kidd come out, with Amin challenging Ever to take on Kidd with Slater as the referee. I'll admit I kind of tuned out during this match. I didn't really care much. I did catch but basically the match kind of ended when Kidd was going for a pin, but Slater kind of stopped the count at 2, saying he didn't want to do it. Basically, you had Kidd yelling at Slater, only to eat a lariat from Ever, who then picked up the 3 count and the win. Both Slater and Ever then proceeded to beat up on Amin and Gabriel Kidd. This match, I'll admit, was really, really boring. I didn't really care much for the story, and I just, I feel like this has been done so much better in the past. This is bringing back really bad memories of Daniel Bryan's original feud with the Wyatts, where basically he joined the Wyatts for a week, and then decided to leave the Wyatts, claiming he only pretended to join the Wyatts to kind of get inside their heads. It was really stupid. But after that, we went into probably one of my favorite matches of the night, besides the David Starr Mike Bailey match. You had a match for the Defiant Hardcore. You might notice I hesitate a couple times here. That's because I'm so used to calling it the WCPW. But you had a match for the Defiant Hardcore title, which was contested between the Defiant Tag Team Champions, Primate, the current Defiant Hardcore Champion, and Jimmy Havoc, the King of the Goths. This was just a fun match overall to watch. Basically, the match started because the storyline here is that Havoc and Primate kind of developed a respect for one another over how well they can beat the hell out of each other. So you had the match start off with Havoc telling Primate to go to the bar and grab some beers. Havoc set up some chairs. They just basically sat down, drank some beers, and slapped each other for a bit. And then Primate threw the beer in Havoc's face, so Havoc went for the stapler, which is something he's known for, from what I've seen in his YouTube videos. And the few episodes of ICW I've actually watched. There were a couple spots here where so basically Havoc stapled Primate a couple times, once in the head, twice in the crotch, I think, which was painful to watch, even though I doubt there are any actual staples in the stapler. For this one, while it was fun, there were a couple moments that kind of took me out of it, like the fact that this was a hardcore match and there wasn't any blood. Like, I'm not saying every hardcore match has to break the Muda scale, but, there wasn't even so much as a bleeding nose in this match. It was weird. And it didn't feel as brutal as, like, a hardcore match could be. It kind of felt really watered down. Again, there were still some funny moments, like, both of them grabbing a beer, sitting down, just slapping each other. But basically the match ended when Havoc set up two chairs and tried to superplex Primate through Primate. He's not a Pokemon, he's a wrestler. Primate through the chairs, only for Primate to slip down and powerbomb Havoc through, then spear Havoc through a table that was set up earlier for the win and to retain the titles. Then Primate helped Havoc up. They clinked their tag team championships and went off to go get a beer because that is their storyline and that is awesome. After that, we had a match that I'll admit I kind of tabbed out for. I didn't really watch at all. Drake versus Urine Simmons. I think Simmons got the win there. I honestly don't care. There was no storyline going into it. I don't know anything about either wrestler, and I just kind of walked off, went to the bathroom, got something to eat, and then came back right in time for the next match, the second of 3 title matches. The first was obviously the hardcore title match. You had Defiant Women's Champion Kaylee Ray, former WWE Mae Young Classic competitor. I have no idea when I'm going to try to re-upload those to YouTube, but I'll try it eventually. Defend her title against Veda Scott. This match was okay, but there were some really noticeably messy moments. The one that comes out to mind immediately was Kaylee Ray trying to go for, I think it was like a springboard roundhouse kick or something, but Veda fell over, or Kaylee overshot her target, and it really looked messy. It was, again, okay. You had a couple cool near falls, like a moment where Veda hits basically a top rope RKO onto Kaylee, but she immediately counters it into a submission hold called the Koji Clutch, which Veda rolls through for a 2 count, and Kaylee Ray comes up and nails her finisher, the Gory Bomb, for the win. This match was short, and it was okay. There's not much I can say about that. It wasn't outright terrible, but it didn't really blow me away. And then after that, so yeah, basically Kaylee Ray retained her title, and I didn't care about the match, which is weird because I like Kaylee Ray. I've seen a bunch of her matches. She's a good wrestler. Veda I haven't seen a whole lot of, but from what I have seen, she seems pretty decent. But there's not much else I can say about the match other than eh. So let's move on to the next match, which I think was supposed to be a number one contenders match for the Defiant Heavyweight Championship, but I'm not 100% sure. You had Travis Banks taking on his former Prestige teammate. He was kicked out of the Prestige after losing a match to Defiant Wrestling champion, or at the time WCPW Wrestling champion Marty Scurll. But he took on his former Prestige teammate El Ligero, and this match was, again, it was okay. Not a whole lot of memorable spots in the match for me personally, though there was one moment that even Travis Banks and Defiant referee Jumping John Myers both agree with. They actually liked the tweet. They actually both liked this tweet. You had a moment where blatantly in front of the ref, El Ligero low blows Travis Banks. And I don't think at any point during the introduction they mentioned the match being no DQ. So why wasn't it a DQ? You know, low blow in front of a ref, that should be a DQ right away. I mean, not that it matters, because not too long after that, Banks nailed his finisher, the Kiwi Crusher, for the 3 count, and he won anyways. But this match was, again, okay. It told this really cool story of how Banks and Ligero were both members of the Prestige. They both know each other. They were both kind of dodging each other's finishers, and then again, Banks nailed his finisher for the win, and Ligero attacked the ref afterwards. After that, we come to the main event and the final of the 3 championship matches that happening this evening. Martin Kirby taking on the prestigious one, Joe Hendry, and the Defiant Wrestling Heavyweight Champion, Marty Scurll, for the Defiant Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. This match was... It was okay. There were some really funny spots, like a moment where Kirby was kind of pushing Scurll and Hendry into pinning each other, which was a really funny moment. If you when Defiant uploads the match, again, I'll post it to here. I'll post the link down in the description. But there were some really funny moments here. Because you have a moment where I think Scurll set Kirby up on the top rope for a superplex, and then you had Scurll and Hendry constantly fighting to see who would superplex, who would get the honor of superplexing Martin Kirby. Only for Kirby to nail a sunset flip onto Scurll while he was trying to suplex Joe Hendry, which was a really cool spot, a really cool play on the whole Tower of Doom thing. Which, for those of you who do not follow wrestling, a Tower of Doom is basically where one man is on the top rope, another man is attempting a superplex, which is basically a flip. Basically, he flips the guy over, while another guy does a power bomb, basically kind of forcing him onto the mat. This was a cool play on that. You have another moment where Martin Kirby's calling for one of his finishers, the Sable Bomb, which is basically a power bomb made famous by Sable, the pro wrestler who's now married to Brock Lesnar. The former women's wrestler who's now married to Brock Lesnar, I should say. And immediately right behind him, Marty Scurll calls for his finisher, the crossface chicken wing, locks in the chicken wing, only for Hendry to try to pin both of them for a 2 count. The match kind of ended when Kirby called for his other finisher, the Zoidberg elbow. Basically, he climbs up on the middle rope, scuttles along like a crab, while a crab makes Zoidberg's noise like the whoop, 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 and then nails an elbow drop. But Scurll interrupted by throwing powder into Kirby's face, only for Hendry to try to roll up Scurll, who then immediately rolled through and locked Hendry in his finisher, the crossface chicken wing, and Hendry immediately tapped out. But anyways, after that, while Scurll was celebrating with his title, you had an appearance from 2 IPW guys. Again, I don't follow much IPW. The only reason I know this was because commentators Dave Bradshaw and James R. Kennedy specifically mentioned that they were from IPW. And of course, you had Austin Aries subtly point out earlier in the night that Aries had turned down an opportunity to show up for IPW UK. But you had IPW superstars Mark Haskins and Chris Ridgway. I only know about this because I had to check Twitter again just to make sure, because I kind of missed their names. And even though I'd said methinks we have our... The only reason I knew, because I had tweeted, methinks we have ourselves an IPW invasion. The only reason I knew it was an IPW invasion because, again, the commentators and Aries had mentioned IPW several times during that segment. But basically, Ridgway and Haskins beat up on Kirby. Aries came in to make the save, only to nail Kirby with a cheap shot and hit his brainbuster finisher, and then sit down and watch as Ridgway and Haskins proceeded to beat the ever-loving crap out of Kirby. Then the show kind of ended when Stu Bennett came out, took off his jacket, walked down to the ring, and then the show faded to black and showed the copyright logo. I will say that is a clever way to get people to watch the first episode of Loaded to see what happens, because I remember something very similar to that happening at the end of the Pro Wrestling World Cup. You had the Prestige attack Kushida, Will Ospreay, and Will Ospreay's girlfriend Bea Priestley after the show went off the air, because the show kind of ended with with Will Ospreay, Bea Priestley, and some friends bowing to show respect to Kushida for winning the Pro Wrestling World Cup. So I will say that it is a clever way to get people to watch the next episode of Loaded, if they're still even calling it Loaded. But in the end, yeah, We Are Defiant was a fun show, and I'm glad I watched it. Especially considering all the other bad stuff that happened in wrestling today. But, if you just give me a second. Yeah, this video is coming up on like 25 minutes in terms of recording, so I don't know, maybe I'll cut out like, maybe I'll wind up cutting out like 5 minutes of this video, so this video might be coming up on like 20 minutes. It's well over 20 minutes right now. So I think I'll talk about that tomorrow, or another time when I have some time. So with all that out of the way, thank you guys as always for watching. If you guys would like to follow me on social media, I am on Twitter at KiraKennedyHNR, Tumblr at KiraKennedyHNR.tumblr.com, and of course you can always check out my Facebook page at facebook.com/KiraKennedyReviews. If you'd also like to support the channel a little bit further, you can always check me out on Patreon at patreon.com/KiraKennedy. And as always, if you'd like to check out any of my past work, my Let's Plays, my stream archives, even my reviews, you can do so at peanutbutterdisaster.com. So until tomorrow, I'm Kira Kennedy, and thank you for watching.
Peanut butter disaster.